Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome back to the Pretty Privilege series. This is going to be a video about pretty women versus medium ugly. This is part three. So, the reason that I call it medium ugly is because I just feel like most people who think they're ugly, they're probably not ugly. They're probably just medium or what I would call average or kind of easily overlooked. If you're not deformed, if people are not scared when they see you, if you're not having surgeons offer to experiment on your face, you're probably not ugly. You're probably just what I would call average or medium. But I feel like one of the issues on YouTube today is that you have a lot of medium ugly bitches trying to act like they are experts on pretty privilege. And I just find that to be so ironic. It's almost like these women are making pretty privilege content, hoping that they can somehow manifest that pretty privilege. So, have you ever met a woman who's like medium ugly, but then she brags about how pretty she is? She brags about how sexy she is or how nice her ass is. And that's another thing, too. They do have the tendency to brag about their bodies because their face card declines. So, they're always going to try to one up you with their ass. They're going to say, my ass is bigger than yours. They're going to say, my boobs are bigger than yours. They're going to talk about like how thick they are, or they may even fetishize themselves. They might fetishize their skin complexions or their tattoos or their piercings or whatever. But let's talk about it. So, what's the difference between pretty privilege versus medium ugly women in terms of lifestyle, in terms of experiences and mindset? Number one, medium ugly women are more likely to be pick me's. They have not had a lot of validation from society, and in some cases, their femininity has been suppressed. And so, medium ugly women, they tend to pedestalize things like dating, marriage, and relationships. Have you ever noticed that a lot of the women who are married, a lot of the women who promote their marriages, they tend to be medium? Like, a lot of these women are not pretty privileged and gorgeous, or maybe they are women who used to be pretty privileged and they lost their pretty privilege. So, if you lost your pretty privilege, that still puts you in kind of like this medium type of category. So, have you ever noticed that a lot of times women will also get into these marriages and then all their pretty privilege just gets usurped by the guy? So she gains a whole bunch of weight because she's too busy cooking a bunch of processed bullshit. She's making processed food for her husband all day. She's slaving away doing chores. She's kind of neglecting herself. I just feel like that's a part of the medium ugly experience. A lot of women who are medium ugly, they've either neglected themselves or they've been neglected by society. So they've been overlooked. So these types of women, they're used to being overlooked. And that's why a lot of them are such pick me's because they need to prove to the pretty women that they are more desirable. Have you ever noticed that there's always a medium woman who is begging for your attention? There's always a medium ugly woman that's begging to get your approval. She wants to one up you. That is a medium ugly girl's dream, is to one up the pretty girl. This is the type of woman who fantasizes about sleeping with your boyfriend or quote unquote stealing a man. Have you ever noticed it's always a medium ugly bitch that is bragging about taking someone's man? And that's because part of medium ugly culture is men are the prize. Men are the prize in medium ugly culture, okay? Relationships are the prize, especially if he's white or, like I said, if that guy is lighter than her. Because a woman who's medium ugly, she's going to be chasing other forms of status. So she doesn't have the beauty. So she might be chasing a man who's lighter or whiter than her. So it's almost this mindset of if I can't get beauty validation, at least I can get white validation. If I can't get beauty validation, I can get validation by fighting with people and picking arguments and nitpicking the pretty girl. Medium ugly women, they're always nitpicking the pretty girl club. They're obsessed with what's going on in pretty girl culture. They have so much to say. Have you also noticed that a lot of medium ugly women, they try to rely on their intellect and they'll be like, "Oh, well, you may be pretty, but I'm smart," as if you can't be pretty and smart at the same time. So they always want to try to brag about how they're so much smarter than you as the pretty girl club. They think they're so much smarter than you. They're so much more intellectual, and then some of them try to rely on being woke. They think they're so woke compared to you. And by the way, A lot of people do this thing with the exoticals where they'll be like, "Oh, the exoticals aren't pretty because they don't show their faces, so they must be ugly." No, you are the one that has had to hide your face throughout your life because you are considered to be unattractive. Do you see the projection there? You're the one that's placing meaning on the anonymity. A lot of people who are actually pretty, we understand the power of having privacy. So, what those types of women are saying is, if I looked like you, I would parade my face all over social media. If I was as pretty as you, I would be an influencer. I would be bragging about my beauty. I would be plastering my face everywhere I could. And it's like, okay, but you're not me. There's always a medium ugly bitch talking about what she shoulda, coulda, and would have done if she were pretty. She's like, oh, well, if I looked like you, well, I would have been a supermodel. Well, I would have been a pop star. Well, I would have done this. And it's like, okay, but you're not. Number two, medium ugly women are parasocial. They spy on the pretty girls. They will create fake accounts so they can try to stalk your Instagram or your stories. They obsess over your dating life. I've noticed medium ugly women, they also obsess over the dating lives of celebrities and Love Island contestants and influencers. They're constantly thinking in their mind of what it would be like to be pretty. And it's like, if you spent all that energy on actually becoming pretty, you would be so much further along versus obsessing over me. So, by the way, that's number three, as a matter of fact. Medium ugly women tend to have bad social climbing tactics because think about it, if you're medium ugly, you most likely come from family members or a generational lineage of people who also were medium ugly. And I know that sounds fucked up, but if you're medium ugly and all your sisters and your mom and your grandmama and them, they were all fugly as well, what kind of advice do you think they'll give? Have you ever noticed that a lot of medium ugly women give the worst advice? Think about the ugliest woman at your job. Think about the most unattractive woman you know. Has she ever been able to give you good advice about dating, about marriage, about money, about anything? Has she ever been able to give you good social climbing advice? Because I've noticed in medium ugly culture, they're always passing around this bad advice. Like, oh, just be hypogamous. Oh, just be a sugar mama. Oh, well, just get anybody who's white. Just chase after white men. Just quote unquote open your options. What options, ma'am? You're the one who's been treated like an option for the past 10 years. So, what do you know about opening options when you yourself are only treated as an option at best? So it's like you don't have the options. Beggars can't be choosers, baby. Okay, number four, medium ugly women have to rely on being aggressive. So, have you ever met a woman who feels like people are always calling her aggressive? Well, I feel like it's not always based on race at all. I feel like the whole aggression talking point, oftentimes that's because you're medium ugly. You don't realize that you are constantly picking on the pretty girl. You bully other people at work. You try to gossip and smear other women's names. You try to start false rumors about other women. So it's like, yeah, people are going to call that aggressive because you are trying to aggressively destroy the pretty woman's reputation. And I've noticed a lot of medium ugly women, they do that. That's their hobbies. Their hobbies are collecting pictures of their celebrity crush, obsessing over pretty famous women, and talking shit about pretty girls. That's their hobby. Their hobbies include bullying, threatening women, or creating smear campaigns against the pretty girls unprovoked. So I think that a lot of women who are called aggressive, that talking point is valid. People forget that stereotypes don't come out of nowhere. Where does the stereotype come from? Stereotypes come from pattern recognition. So a lot of people are going to get mad at me saying that, but guess what? Welcome to Earth. People stereotype. If they notice that a lot of medium ugly women are very aggressive, then yeah, they are probably more likely to call you aggressive. Stereotypes are not created in a vacuum. Stereotypes don't come out of nowhere. But number three, medium ugly women are always comparing their dating lives and will demand to see pictures of who you're dating, and they may even ask for screenshots of your messages as well. So, have you ever met anybody who wants to see your dating app? Or I've even seen on Lipstick Alley where women are making fake dating app profiles of their pretty friends. Yes, that's actually a thing. Imagine having a friend that is so obsessed with you that she steals your pictures off of Facebook, she steals your pictures on Instagram, and makes a fake Hinge account just so she can compare herself to you. She's pretending to be you on Hinge so she can see what kind of dating options you would have. That is some medium ugly dating behavior. Number 5, she uses beauty enhancements as a beauty replacement because she doesn't have the natural beauty to fall back on. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, no, society only has one standard of beauty. That's completely false. There are thousands of different cultures in this world. There are billions of people in this world. So to say that the world only follows a Eurocentric standard of beauty and that's it, that's a laughable talking point. There are thousands of different types of pretty privilege, and I talked about this on my channel all the time. There are so many different ways to be beautiful. There are so many different women out there who are getting pretty privilege. I've seen women who are white and they have pretty privilege, women who are black and dark skinned who have pretty privilege. You could really be any phenotype and still find a way to get pretty privilege. I feel like being considered beautiful has more to do with your creativity. It has more to do with knowing what works for you. But a lot of medium ugly women, they have a scarcity mindset around beauty. And they also have a scarcity mindset about like relationships and men and visibility. So they're hyper competitive. They're hyper competitive. Everything is a competition. They're competing with you about who's richer. They're competing to have cuter shoes than you. They're competing to have a better hairstyle than you, because deep down inside, they feel like you're beating them. They feel like by you being born pretty, you're somehow beating them. But a lot of medium ugly women, they act like they're the beauty police. Have you ever had someone medium ugly who's trying to judge your clothes? She judges your hair, she judges your weave, she's judging your makeup, and it's like the medium ugly community, I mean, they're the biggest beauty police of them all. So, if you don't meet her beauty standard, she's going to try to make you feel like you're not good enough. Meanwhile, the medium ugly doesn't meet anyone's beauty standard. So they'll say things like, oh, the exoticals are not the preference over white women. Oh, well, people like Latinas better than you. And it's like, okay, so if we are second best compared to Latinas, then where does that place you on the scale? So they don't realize that by dissing you, they're really dissing themselves. But a lot of them, they'll try to convince you that you're not the preference. They love obsessing over who's the preference. It's like the preference to who? To men? That proves that she feels like being a preference is a prize. That's what it is. She feels like being the preference to the male gaze, that's the prize, because that's what she would do. If she looked like you, she would spend her life basking in the male gaze. She would spend her life fucking every dusty in town. She would spend her life sucking and fucking on everything white. That's how she would spend her time, and so that's why she's kind of obsessed with whose preference you are. And it's like, ma'am, why are you so obsessed with me being somebody's preference or not? Why aren't you focused on yourself? Medium ugly women have a tendency to not focus on themselves because they're not interesting. Think about it. If I was ugly and if my life sucked, I would focus on other people too. So I feel like being a woman who is medium, it's almost like living in this social prison. It's almost like living in a social hell, being invisible. Imagine walking around and just being treated like a ghost. Hi, my name is Casper. Nice to meet you. I'm a ghost. Like, that's the life of a medium ugly woman. Have you ever noticed they're always shouting from the abyss? They have to use complaining in order to get attention. So that's another aspect you'll see. They'll create TikTok pages where they just complain about all the pretty girls. They'll create entire YouTube channels where they complain about exoticals. They complain about all the other girls who are getting attention. So it's just them picking apart the ones who are perceived as being prettier than them. So that's what they do. They can't get attention just by being effortless and by being pretty. So the only way they get attention is by being a social justice warrior. And by the way, the whole pretty privilege argument, it's not about social justice, it's about social status. Because anytime they start talking shit about pretty privileged women, notice how their complaint is always, oh, well, she has more followers than me and that's not fair. Well, she gets to be faceless and talk about pretty privilege and people, they actually listen to her. So that's not fair. I have to come on here with full glam makeup and I have to come on here trying to look all perfect just so I can prove my beauty. But then the exoticals, they don't have to do that, and people actually listen to them more than they listen to me. That's not fair. Those are the talking points of medium ugly women. They have to work twice as hard to get half as much. In fact, you'll hear some of them saying that. You'll hear a lot of medium ugly women teaching their daughters that they're never going to be enough. They'll be over here teaching their daughter that, oh, you have to work harder than the pretty girl. You have to wear more makeup than the pretty girl because, you're not as pretty as her, so you have to wear more makeup. Your hair's not as cute as hers, so you have to wear more wigs and weaves. You have to do more so you can try to measure up to her. The medium ugly is always trying to measure up. She's trying to measure up to what white man wants. She's measuring up to what the pretty girl is doing. She's always stalking your makeup routine. Have you ever had that? Somebody who stalks your makeup routine. They literally want to watch you do your makeup. They want to watch you do your hair. They want to watch what kind of outfit you put together. They're trying to stalk like where you shop and everything. They're a monitoring spirit. But number 6, medium uglies create how to keep a man content, and they obsess over small details in hopes that a man will pick them. So these are the women who stress out about their nail polish color. They're stressed about their wigs. Also, number 7, medium uglies are always using like these seduction tactics and manipulation tactics in order to be seen by men. Have you ever noticed that? She's always looking up like how to give head the best way, or like, how to do all these tricks in the bedroom, how to bend it over and bust it open. And then they'll try to make fun of other women. They'll be like, oh, well, you're just a starfish in the bed. Well, you're just a pillow princess. You don't be doing shit. And it's like, ma'am, I'm not about to spend my life trying to train myself on how to be a sex slave just so I can keep a man's attention. Like, that's ridiculous to me. But that's a part of the medium ugly lifestyle. They're constantly searching for some sort of secret seduction tactic that they can use. So that's why they create those channels, and that's why they call into those channels where they rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. That's why they have so much anxiety about what they're wearing, because they have to rely on their clothing as a form of seduction. So it's like she can't just walk around in a t-shirt and leggings and be perceived as gorgeous. No, she can't do that because she doesn't have the face card, she doesn't have the body card, etc. So she has to try to read all these different books. Have you ever noticed there's always a medium ugly woman who's keeping up with all the relationship books? She reads Think Like a Man and all these other like famous books that come out. She's over here keeping up with all the red pill content. Why? Well, it's because she cares a lot about what men think of her. She feels like the male gaze is the prize. She feels like male approval is the prize, and she herself doesn't get any approval for her beauty. So she has no choice but to seek the approval in a different way. So she'll be watching a lot of like the red pill alpha male content, and then she will try to morph herself into what these types of men want. Also, medium uglies, they tend to be KC supporters. KC from Love Island. They tend to be KC supporters and cape, they'll cape for him. She's always caping for a man. She's Captain Save a Man. She will save a man from his financial failures. She'll be a sugar mama. She'll be hypogamous. Some good examples of this are Fantasia Barrino, the singer, and also Mary J. Blige. So I don't consider those women to be ugly, but I believe that those women think that they are ugly because the way that they behave, the way that they just give up their estate to a man and they literally just let their man scam and steal from them. Well, yeah, that's some medium ugly behavior. And notice how a lot of the women who are medium, they're always chasing after men who are way more attractive than them. They chase after the pretty boys. They love the guys who are like these model types of men or whatever. Why are they doing that? Well, it's because they have this mindset of, if I can't be pretty, at least I get to fuck someone who's pretty. At least I get to fuck a pretty boy. At least I get to be the side chick of a pretty boy. Have you ever met a woman who brags about being a side chick? She's bragging about it because she genuinely feels like she stole the man from you. She just feels like her seduction tactics were so powerful that she was able to take the man from a pretty girl. First of all, you can't take a man. And also, just because a man fucks you, that doesn't mean he respects you. That doesn't mean that he's going to treat you well. A lot of men will sleep with anything, by the way. But a medium ugly woman doesn't know this because a lot of medium ugly culture, it kind of overlaps with the femcel mindset. It overlaps with that scarcity mindset of I'm never going to be loved. So that's another thing too. Medium ugly women, they try to fuck their way into a relationship. They feel like they have to use their pussy to prove themselves. This type of woman is using her pussy to audition for a relationship. She uses her pussy to audition for dates. She's auditioning for attention. So it's almost like this mindset of being like a free ex worker. So this is no shade towards ex workers because ex workers are actually smarter because at least the ex worker is getting paid. She is paying her bills. She is getting some sort of financial stability. But the women who are just doing all this shit, like basically auditioning, that's what they won't admit. They're secretly auditioning. They're hoping that the man will fall in love because of her pussy. They're hoping that the man will fall in love because of her sex game. And that's another thing. She views everything as a game. Everything is a fucking chess game. And it's like, that must be exhausting. Do you know how exhausting that is? To have to walk through life over strategizing everything, trying to read men's minds and trying to read all these books, spending hours upon hours listening to audiobooks about how men think and, how can I try to manipulate him into liking me? That must be exhausting to have to stress out about that. Think about how stressful it is to be ugly in our society. You have to stress out about how your face looks. You're stressed about your body. Think about what these women are going through. She is stressed out about her stomach, about her hair, about her cellulite, her stretch marks, the way her face looks, her bone structure. I mean, that's a lot to be carrying on your shoulders. This is why some women feel like they can't be soft. And so then they have to create this content talking about resting in their femininity, but they don't know how to rest and they don't know what femininity is. Go and ask some of these content creators, okay, what is femininity? Just go ask them. And I guarantee you they won't be able to answer. Because when you think about femininity, that actually has different meanings depending on the culture. And I've noticed that a lot of people who talk about femininity, they have a male-centered view of femininity. So they'll say things like, what do old money white men want? Okay, that's how I should dress. That's true femininity. So it kind of goes back to having this scarcity mindset as well. They don't realize that there are also many different ways to be feminine. Femininity is not a monolith, but I feel like generally speaking, when people use that word, they're talking about what our culture associates with women or feminine expression. So, for example, your warmth, your receptiveness, maybe like your nurturing, your playfulness. A lot of medium ugly women, they're not very playful. Have you ever noticed that? They can't be playful. Being playful is actually an expression of femininity. So when you think about playfulness, like flirting or like joking around or being goofy, a lot of masculine women, they actually make fun of you for being playful. And they'll call you a goofy ass bitch. That's what they call it. They'll be like, "Oh, shut up, you goofy ass bitch." Okay, so I'm goofy because I'm laughing and like having fun. So do you see what I mean? A lot of medium ugly women, they also have suppressed their femininity. So they feel like it's cringy to be playful. They think it's cringy to like laugh and to joke around or to like laugh at yourself. They think that's cringy. They're used to being serious all the time. They're used to having to fight all the time. And so they don't know how to like kind of relax and joke around. Or the way that they joke around is by insulting others. They joke around by negging. So they will pull you down a notch. They'll try to call out your little flaws. They try to talk about how you have a big head, or they'll say you have a big forehead or some shit. Like that's their way of being playful. But I actually feel like playfulness, that's an expression of femininity. Your creativity is an expression of femininity. So the women who say, oh, if you're not white, you're not pretty. If you're not the lightest of all the light skins, if you're not the whitest looking mixed person, then you're not pretty. You're average. No, you're saying that because you don't know how to be pretty outside of whiteness, because you have no creativity. Creativity is also a form of feminine expression. But women who are not pretty, they're not trying to be creative. They're trying to be accepted. Also, your emotional expressiveness, that's actually a part of your femininity as well. Being able to express your emotions, like your happiness, your sadness, being able to cry, not being afraid to cry if that's what you're feeling. So, women who are more masculine, they don't know how to show emotions other than anger or rage or maybe even jealousy, or like violence or aggression. Those are the only emotions that they feel comfortable showing. They don't feel comfortable showing how happy they are. They don't feel comfortable showing excitement and like jumping up and down. I've literally had people get mad when I get excited. Like if I'm excited about something and I'm jumping up and down or I'm like smiling and happy, kind of like how a child would get excited. Um I've actually been around women where they view that as cringy. So being excited and happy is literally cringy to them. I've noticed that medium ugly women who have suppressed their femininity, they have a hard time showing their emotions. They're always trying to play it cool. Has anybody noticed that? She's always trying to be the cool girl. She's always trying to pretend like she's so chill and laid back, and she never shows a wide range of emotions. I think part of that comes from suppressed femininity. And this is also why I talk about reparenting yourself, like remothering yourself. So, a part of how I nurture myself, nurturing is a part of my femininity. That's a part of my feminine expression. Part of how I nurture myself is by doing activities that kind of like fill me up. So, doing things that help restore energy to me. So, like dancing is one of them. For some of you guys, maybe it's like gardening or journaling or spending time in nature, but a lot of medium ugly women, they don't know how to restore their own energy. They don't know how to fill their cup. And so they're energy vampires. They have to take energy from the pretty girl. They have to try to get your energy by provoking you. So these are the women where they're so desperate for attention. Any attention is still worth it, even if it's negative attention. So, like I said, they act very similar to incels. You know how those incel men hate beautiful women and they hate you because they can't have you. A femcel hates you because she can't be you. So, as a pretty girl, you're always going to have those two groups of people as your hater archetype, the incels and the femcels. The people who hate you because they can't have you, or they hate you because they can't be you. But another part of medium ugly lifestyle is she's afraid to ask for help, or she always has to be strong, um, because she's used to being told no all the time, and so she has to be hyper independent. That's what I call it. So usually these women, they don't make very good team players. So that's why if you work with some of these women, that's why they are complete bitches. They're always in a conflict with somebody. And it's because she's never had anyone volunteer to help her. She's afraid to ask for help. Meanwhile, as the pretty girl, oh, I used to ask for help all the time. When I was an accountant, I would literally ask my male coworkers if they could help me, and then they would just end up doing the work for me. They would make my job easier. But a medium ugly woman, she's not used to that, and she can't really get away with that. Okay, number 7. Medium uglies are less likely to be girls. In fact, they tend to think that decentering men is extreme because, when you're not accepted, the main way that you seek validation is through a man. And some of these women are very desperate. You'll hear them talking about how they'll date ugly men, they'll date broke men, they'll be hypogamous, they'll go 50-50, 60-40, 70-30. These are the women that you see living with their boyfriends and like she's paying the majority of the bills and he's just living there. And I've talked about this in my Decentering Men series about how most men are just offering dick and emotions. That's it. So, these are the women, the medium uglies are the women who are living with these men. She's paying the bills, and all he's offering is dick and emotions. That's it. So he's sleeping with her, and then, they make a couple of jokes together here and there. And she's kind of carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. But number 8, medium ugly women are constantly pandering to men. They're pandering to black men, pandering to white men. They're pandering to boomers. They pander to conservative men or to Christian men. I told you guys how a lot of medium ugly women, they flock to the church. Why? Well, because the church, they have an agenda against pretty women. A lot of them are, they talk about Jezebel spirits and stuff. So in the church, they teach them that being pretty is not important. So that's why you see a lot of medium ugly women flocking to the church. Those women, they couldn't make it in the dating market outside of church. They couldn't make it in life. They could, they weren't getting acceptance or pretty privilege. And so they're trying to go to a place where pretty privilege doesn't exist. But that's not real. They lie in the church and they say, "Oh, well, your beauty doesn't matter. It's more about who you are on the inside." But in reality, no, your pretty privilege will still exist even if you go to a church. But a lot of medium ugly women, they flock to the church because they're hoping that the church culture will kind of accept them, or they're hoping to get a husband. They only go to the church because they want to find a husband. So, because remember, she has to chase after men. And I've also seen some women try to pick up different hobbies like basketball or doing triathlons and stuff. They start doing these hobbies because they can't get a man with their looks. And so they try to get a man through hobbies, or they try to get into that guy's friend zone. So we saw this on Love Island with Anaya and Sincere. She wanted to be in Sincere's friend zone. They want to get into the boyfriend's friend zone so that whenever that man complains, she's always the listening ear. She's always right there next to him. She's willing to listen to him complain about other women. So these are the women who stay friends with men for years. And then, she secretly loves that man or whatever. She secretly likes that guy. And she's hoping that one day that man will finally realize that she's enough for him. She's hoping that that man will one day get rejected by the pretty girl so much to where he becomes discouraged and then he settles for her. That's really what it is. The women who stick around the guy's friend zones, these are women who are okay with being the second choice. They're okay with being the second choice or the third choice or the 10th choice. As long as they get chosen, that's all that matters. They don't care if they're being chosen to be pumped and dumped. They don't care if they're being chosen as a side chick. They don't care if they're being chosen as the sugar mama, as long as they get chosen. And by the way, I do believe that beauty is a form of feminine privilege. So I do believe that feminine privilege exists. I do think that in our society, people feminize certain traits. It could be how you look, it could be the way that you behave. And so that's why you see a lot of medium uglies. They have to create content and they have to watch content like how to be the damsel in distress, how to be a seductress, how to be this. They have to try to figure out what their feminine archetype is because they were never treated as feminine. So they kind of have to figure out their femininity for themselves, or they just try to copy what the pretty girls are doing. But it never works though. Have you ever noticed like if you're pretty and you smile and bat your eyelashes, that actually makes a difference. But if you're ugly and smile and bat your eyelashes, you just get looked at kind of crazy. But as far as what I think part of feminine privilege is, I think that being perceived as approachable, that's actually related to feminine privilege. So you know how some people they have like resting bitch face, or they're viewed as being unapproachable, or people are actually scared of them. The opposite of that would be approachability. So people feeling like you have a friendly face. I always tell people, you know how some people have the bitch face? I have the exact opposite face. I have the face that says, "Oh, come here, come talk to me. Come talk to me, come bother me. Come ask me questions." I'm very welcoming. I have like this welcoming type of vibe about me, even though I kind of don't want to sometimes. But I feel like that's a part of feminine privilege, though. If you look like a dainty little sweet princess, then yes, of course, people are more likely to talk to you. They're more likely to approach you at work. They're more likely to kind of get along with you or make small talk with you. But another part of being a medium ugly Dustisha is Dustishas, they're very lonely. They're much more lonely than pretty girls. And there is a downside to pretty privilege. I talk about how when you're pretty, you still can experience social isolation, but it's never going to be as bad as someone who's viewed as ugly. As a pretty woman, you're never going to be overlooked as much as an ugly woman. I feel like when you're pretty, you do get overlooked in terms of intelligence. People tend to underestimate your intelligence, which is a part of why I promote education so much on my channel. I do think that being educated is a privilege, and I think that if you are pretty and educated, those are two of the most coveted qualities in our society. Being pretty and smart, people pedestalize that. Why do you think people make fun of single mothers? They make fun of single mothers because they feel like becoming a single mother was dumb. So in our society, people ridicule what they think is dumb, and people pedestalize the ones that they think are the smart ones. So I just think that if you're both pretty and you're smart, I think that is amazing. You're going to have a much easier life than somebody who's pretty and dumb, or somebody who is ugly and dumb. So I feel like a lot of women who are medium ugly, they do try to use their smarts to get ahead, but I also feel like being smart can only take you so far. Like society does worship beauty more than it worships being smart. I still feel like society pedestalizes beauty the most because look, we got OF girls. These are girls with pretty bodies. They have pretty boobs. They have a pretty ass. And so that's why they're being pedestalized. They have a pretty waist to hip ratio. So it's not necessarily even their face, but you got these types of women becoming millionaires. You got an entire sector called Hollywood where it's just all these attractive people, being in movies and stuff. Even the most popular reality show right now, Love Island. These people are attractive people. They're not overweight. None of them are overweight. They have straight white teeth. They have flat stomachs. They have their hair and their makeup done. They have boob jobs or Botox or fillers or whatever. All the guys have like six packs and stuff. Nobody on Love Island has a bunch of acne. They all have their edges. I don't see anybody on Love Island with alopecia. So our society worships beauty. So if you have pretty privilege, you're always going to be worshipped in one way or another, whether you like it or not. And so I think that's another reason why the church tends to hate pretty women, because, God is supposed to be the one receiving worship, not the pretty girl. And I already know some people are going to be like, no, nobody worships pretty girls. Like, that's too much of a strong word to use. Well, no, worship means that you're giving someone honor. You're honoring that person, you're praising that person. You have reverence for that person. So that means you have kind of like this respect and a fear of that person. That's what pretty girls get. People respect pretty girls in the beauty community. Like in the beauty community, you are respected as a pretty girl because you're seen as the pinnacle of beauty. And then people have kind of this reverence for you as well, because a lot of people have been traumatized by pretty people. Usually the bully is the pretty girl. Usually the man who is changed forever. There's always a pretty woman who changed that man's life. So as a pretty girl, you just naturally have a lot of power. You naturally hold a lot of social weight. You're kind of like a social heavyweight when you're a pretty girl. So yeah, I do think that when you're pretty, you always will be receiving some form of worship somewhere, even if it's just on social media. Guess what? Everybody's on fucking social media. So that's another thing. People love to downplay social media. They'll be like, oh, well, all you get is you just get likes on social media and that's it. Oh, well, you just get views and that's it. Or you just have people following you and looking at you. Okay, but that's a currency. Attention is currency. Everybody's trying to go viral these days. People have literally passed away just trying to go viral. People are willing to do extreme things like pranks, and that's another aspect of pretty privilege. You don't really have to try as hard on social media. Well, if you want to go into the beauty space, I would say you don't have to really try as hard because you already have the beauty inherently. But there are other people where they have to do all these big pranks. They have to like scream on the camera. They have to like jump off of buildings and shit. They have to eat super spicy chicken wings and do all these mukbangs where they're stuffing their faces. They have to do all this fancy editing. Basically, they have to do more performing in order to get views. But when you're pretty, you can just chill and just whatever, put on makeup. I don't know. You can just exist. And your existence is automatically going to bring you visibility. So like when you're pretty, you're kind of seen as like a role model in a way. Like a lot of young girls are going to look up to you when you're pretty. So if you have younger cousins, younger sisters and stuff, they're more likely to look up to your beauty. But when a woman is average or unattractive, then she doesn't have that experience. So that's why you have a lot of medium ugly women who are so angry. It's because she's never been viewed as a role model. She's a role model for what? Being dusty? Oh, and another reason that I say pretty women are worshipped is because part of worshiping someone is doing acts of service for that person. So, showing acts of service, serving the person, it could be something simple like bringing them food, filling their gas tank, paying for drinks, etc. Well, technically, based on the definition of the word worship, that is a form of worship. Acts of service, that's a form of worship. The whole purpose of religion is so you can serve your God. You're doing all these everyday actions in life. You're doing small and big gestures to show that you worship God or whatever. Okay, well, that's what people do when you're pretty privileged. Random strangers will do acts of service for a pretty privileged woman before they'll do an act of service for somebody ugly. As a matter of fact, yesterday, so I was walking down the street. So I was walking somewhere and it was really hot yesterday. So as I was walking downtown, there was a guy that was riding on one of those carts. You know how they have the carts in the city that like it gives people a ride or whatever. So it's like a little golf cart. You can pay like $5 or $10 and like get a free ride so you don't have to keep walking. So I was walking and this cart drove up behind me and he was like, "Hey, do you need a ride?" And I was like, "Oh, no thanks," because I didn't feel like paying just to like, get a ride. And he was like, "Are you sure? Like you can just ride with me free of charge. Like I'm going in the same direction." Okay, well that's an example of pretty privilege because I know that I looked pretty that day. I was wearing a cute little dress. I was wearing, my hair is done, my makeup's done, or whatever. There were other people walking. He could have easily offered anybody else a ride. No, he specifically offered for me to have a free ride. Okay, so that's an act of service. That's an act of service because you're volunteering to do something for someone with nothing in return. And I think a lot of medium ugly women, they feel like pretty privilege is just compliments. No, it's not compliment. Compliments are words. That's words of affirmation. Acts of service, that's a step up from the words. Because now you're putting actions behind what you think about that person. So you're picking them up from the airport or like think about it. As a pretty girl, have you ever had somebody volunteer to like pick you up from the airport or drop you off? They give you rides to places. So it goes deeper than just people complimenting your beauty. And a lot of medium ugly women, they don't get the nuances of pretty privilege. They don't understand all the different ways you can receive pretty privilege. And there are a lot of other people, they'll be like, "Oh, well, that's not a big deal. Somebody giving you a ride on a cart when you're walking around downtown, that's not a big deal." Okay, but if you start stacking them all up together, then it does become a big deal. So, for example, let's say I got a free ride on the cart. So now I don't have to pay for Ubers. I don't have to pay money. So I'm saving my money. If I keep saving my money over the years, well, yeah, now my wealth, now I have a different level of financial stability versus someone who's medium ugly. They're just slaving away at a job. Or if somebody's pretty privileged and she gets access to a higher paying job where she's using her looks, maybe it's real estate, maybe it's, I don't know, just working in sales or something. So it does actually stack up over time. Only the women who don't have pretty privilege, those are the ones who downplay it the most. It's like, well, yeah, because you haven't experienced what it's like to be pretty. If you could trade bodies with somebody for one day, you would. If you had the option to be pretty, you probably would. So that's why I don't really believe when women say things like, "Oh, beauty is not a big deal." No, actually, it is a big deal. As a matter of fact, I got 2 tickets. Well, I should have got 2 tickets. I got pulled over recently because I was going 65 in a 35 like speeding lane or whatever. So I got pulled over by this cop and I was driving without insurance. So I know that's bad. I'm just exposing myself. But no, I was speeding. I got pulled over because I was driving without insurance. And then, like, the guy, he walked up to my car. He was like, "Yeah, you were going 65 and a 35." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Like, I shouldn't have done that." And then he was like, "Can I see your license and registration?" And I didn't realize that I forgot to pay for my insurance, but I did. So, yeah, I had no insurance. And then he was like, "Yeah, where's your insurance?" And then I pulled it up and I was like, "Oh, it's expired, actually. Like, I don't have it." And I just remember I almost cried. I literally almost cried right there because I was like, "Oh my God, like Not only am I speeding, I'm driving without insurance. I've been pulled over, so I'm either going to get hella tickets or I'm going to get charged like $1,000, or he's just going to take my car right now. I mean, I don't know what the laws are, but I do know that it's definitely illegal to be driving without insurance. So he said that instead of giving me a ticket, he's just going to give me a warning. So I literally did not get it. I broke two laws and literally did not get it. Got pulled over 30 miles over the speed limit, have no insurance, and was allowed to keep on driving. So I do believe that that's pretty privileged, because I don't know what else it would be. I don't know. Like, he didn't know who I was. So I can't say that it was smart privilege. I can't say it was wealth privilege, because you don't know somebody's socioeconomic status just by looking at their car. So I have no choice but to assume that it's some sort of pretty privilege. It could have also had to do with my racial background. Who knows? You know, maybe he felt like he could relate to me. He wasn't black or anything. It was a Hispanic guy that pulled me over. Like the cop, he was a Hispanic guy. So I don't know. But all I do know is my looks or whatever, it has helped me to save money. So saving money is important. So you can't tell me that pretty privilege doesn't matter. If my pretty privilege helps me to save money, then that means that it is a big deal and it makes a difference. And by the way, in terms of the whole cop thing with the tickets, I don't know if they wear body cams or what, because I was thinking about that too. I was like, oh wow, like, what if this is on the body cam? And like, what if this cop gets in trouble? What if he risks his job because he didn't want to give me the tickets? Especially the whole driving without insurance thing. I'm pretty sure that you're supposed to like either impound their car, you're supposed to give them a fine. As a matter of fact, now that I think of it, yesterday I was at this event and there happened to be a guy there that I met. I'll talk more in detail about that probably on Patreon. Oh, by the way, be sure to subscribe to the Patreon. If you're one of those people who likes to binge watch my content, if you listen to my content while you're working, or if you like listening in the background, be sure to join the Patreon, because that has over 400 episodes that are not on this channel. So the difference between the Patreon and the members page, the Patreon is just audio, and then the members page is videos. So if you're interested, you can definitely join that. Patreon, I would say, is where I get probably more personal, but I don't keep my personal episodes up for very long on the Patreon. So if it's me talking about my personal life, you have to listen to the episode as soon as you can, because it's probably going to be gone within like a couple days. But yesterday I was at this event, and the event was walking distance from my house, but it was kind of like, you know, a 20-minute walk. It wasn't the closest walk ever. And so it was about to start raining. And I was about to call an Uber, and one of the guys that I happened to meet there, he was like, oh, I actually parked right over here. Like, I don't live far, so I can go ahead and give you a ride. So I literally that's the second time within one day, by the way. So first I got a free ride there because I was walking, and then I got a free ride back. So again, an ugly woman, she would have had to book Ubers or catch the subway or whatever. You know, she would have had to pay for her transportation. So I just think that in terms of transportation, I feel like that's one of my strong areas for my pretty privilege, is when it comes to driving, when it comes to transportation, when it comes to getting out of tickets and stuff like that. That is a part of pretty privilege where it really helps me. So if you're an exotical watching this, you can start thinking about that. Where does your pretty privilege help you the most? Because in my case, I think it helps me in terms of savings, and it helps in terms of like convenience. It just makes life a little bit easier. And when I say that pretty privileged women get worshiped, if you think of what worship is, that just means that you're admired and you are respected. So I talked about this before. Ugly girls get sexualized, pretty girls get romanticized. And I was actually thinking about that too. Like, it's very difficult for me to attract straight up sexual attention. So you know how some guys, like, they keep on bringing the conversation back to sex. So it's like, maybe you're not talking about sex, but then he wants to bring up like, oh, what's your favorite position, or do you want to sleep with me, or whatever. For a lot of medium ugly women, that's a prize to them. Remember how I made that episode where there was a black woman and she was celebrating being SA'd by a Native American man? Like, she literally celebrated the fact that he tried to fuck her in the bathroom. I don't view that as a prize. And I just feel like women who are medium, they get smexualized for their body parts, whereas women who are pretty privileged, yes, we get smexualized, but we also get romanticized. So there's kind of like this admiration that people have for you when you're pretty. And I feel like when you're pretty, people have more of a desire to impress you versus when you're just average, they don't really care so much about impressing you. That's why you see a lot of women pedestalizing going on dates, because those women, they've never been taken on a date in their lives because they're medium ugly. So, the guy feels like, whatever, like, you should be glad that I'm talking to you. I've actually heard some of them say that in their videos. They'll be like, oh, if a guy's black, he'll treat me like I should be glad that he's talking to me. Meanwhile, if I were to compare that with my personal experience, it's not the same. I've never had somebody act like I should be glad they're talking to me. So it's kind of like the power dynamic is reversed. When you're pretty privileged, you definitely have more power and more leverage in several different areas. And I feel like when you're pretty privileged, you have more options, you have more life paths to choose from. And so that's why you see so many ugly women who are obsessed with pretty women's lives. They'll be like, oh, if I were her, I would have got pregnant by a basketball player. Okay, well, yeah, that's one life path for a pretty woman. I personally don't want to do that, though. I don't want to be pregnant. I don't want to have swollen ankles and like have stretch marks and then like I have to get the tummy tuck afterwards. Then I have to raise this baby. I don't want to do that. But a lot of medium ugly women, they're obsessed with like all the different life choices that a pretty privileged woman can make. But if you're medium ugly, your life path for the most part is going to be, just work a job or whatever. And then, try to get whatever job you can get. You may not have as many options with jobs. You're less likely to get promoted. There have been studies that have shown that pretty privileged women are more likely to be promoted. So I just feel like a lot of dusticias and medium uglies, they're fighting for scraps. They're fighting for breadcrumbs. They want the breadcrumbs of white male attention. So all the white guys that weren't desirable in the white community, the white guys that the Asian women didn't want, the Hispanic women didn't want, you got medium ugly women begging for those types of white guys. So it's this culture of begging for crumbs, begging for scraps. And when you're pretty, I also feel like you can get away with having different personality quirks. So you can be dorky, you can be nerdy, you could be super artsy, you could be into anime, you could be goth, or like you kind of dress differently or whatever. But people view that as being cute. They think it's like you're cute, you're different, you're innovative. But if somebody is unattractive, then it's like they're a weirdo, like, ew, it's cringy. A lot of people who are unattractive, they cringe more. But when you're pretty, it's very difficult to be cringy. It's like you're cute. Everything you do is cute. Kind of like a cute baby. Think of how when you see a cute baby, if the baby throws something on the ground or the baby makes a mess, you think it's cute because the baby's cute. When you're pretty privileged, I do feel like there's always going to be a sector of people that will kind of baby you and kind of like cater to you. And a lot of people call it coddling. Okay, well then I'm a coddled ass bitch. Okay, I'm a spoiled bitch. Now what? Who gonna check me? Oh, well, the exoticals, people are just pandering to you. They're just coddling you. People are catering to you. Okay, so then I'm a spoiled brat. Now what? You mad? One thing I want to say though too is there is a difference between being pretty privileged versus being magnetic. And so I think a lot of medium ugly women, they have to rely on being magnetic because they don't have the beauty. Have you ever noticed that some of the most spiritual women who do all the witchcraft and the crystals and hoodoo and whatever, a lot of times those women are medium ugly. And it's like, you're not spiritual. You're really not. Because if you were truly a spiritual master, you would know how to grow your edges out. You would know how to have clear skin. You would take care of your body, which is a temple, right? So that's another side note. I don't listen to spiritual people when their lives and their body and their looks don't match how they are on the inside. My outer appearance is a reflection of who I am on the inside. It's a reflection of how I view myself. I view myself as a pretty princess. And so I want my outside to also look like a pretty princess. So if somebody views themselves as a goddess, if I don't think you look like a goddess, I'm not taking your spiritual advice. I don't care how many crystals you have. I don't care how many chants you can do. I don't care how many times you jump up and down and shout in the church. If I wouldn't trade lives with you, I'm not taking your advice. And this is why I also try to tell you, as the Pretty Girl Club, I'm actually not an advice channel. I don't believe in telling grown women what to do. I don't believe in that. I do not like when other people try to tell me what to do. And so I'm never going to try to tell you what decisions to make. This channel is really set up as more of like a think tank. So I'm just kind of bouncing ideas off of my audience, and whatever you guys want to talk about, that's what I'll make videos about. So even when it comes to my channel, I don't even want you to look up to me. I really don't. I don't want you to blindly follow me. I don't want you to look up to me. And I just feel like a lot of people, they want to dominate and subjugate pretty women. That's what they do. They want to dominate. People literally go to wars and then they go into the country and they start raping the women of the other country. So, pretty women in general are viewed as a prize. Pretty women are viewed as a treasure. They're viewed as the spoils of war. And, so it's like there are so many people who already want to dominate and subjugate me. And so the way that I try to fight back is, guess what? I'm the boss of myself, bitch. You don't get to tell me what kind of crystals I have to use. Oh, well, but you're a Pisces, you're Scorpio, you're this, you're that. No, you don't get to control how I live my life. You don't get to try to dominate and subjugate my spirit. You don't get to guide me or tell me where I have to go in life. And if I wouldn't trade lives with you, I'm not listening to you. If you're ugly, I'm not listening to you. I know that sounds fucked up, but seriously, if she's ugly, I don't want to hear her life advice. I don't care about her life experiences because we can't relate. I only listen to people who I can relate to. And this kind of reminds me of the whole Shira 7 thing. Like, some people, they get mad at people like Shira 7, or they even get mad at people like Princella the Queenmaker is a good example. With those two women, people get mad, and it's like, well, you're just mad because you can't relate to those women. Like in my case, I actually relate to both of those women. I relate to their phenotypes. I relate to both of their experiences. I relate to a lot of their talking points. So I think a lot of medium uglies, they make a mistake by like focusing on the women they disagree with versus just watching women who relate to them. There's actually a woman on YouTube where she has a channel called the Ugly Girl Club. So my channel is the Pretty Girl Club. She literally calls her audience the Ugly Girl Club. And it's like, okay, if you're ugly, then just go watch somebody who's ugly. Why are you over here obsessing over the pretty women? Go join the Ugly Girl Club. Go watch their channels, go learn from them. I guess you got to go read all the books, go read these red pill books, go pander to the red pill. And by the way, have you ever noticed that like even the red pill guys, they say they want to pick me so bad, and there are a ton of pick me's over in those spaces, but they always overlook those pick me's. Those men are still obsessed with what the baddies are doing. Go look at O'Shea Duke Jackson's channel. He's like kind of this red pill type of commentator. He's always making videos about celebrities who are pretty privileged women. He never makes videos about what Gabby Sidibe is doing or about who Gabby Sidibe is dating. No, they're always making videos about Tia Mowry, Lori Harvey, Stacey Dash, all these pretty privileged exoticals. That's who they're making videos about. That's who they're focusing on. But another one of my controversial opinions, I don't believe that somebody unattractive is spiritually powerful. Like, I mean, I'm not really a spiritual person, if I'm being honest. I really feel like a lot of the stuff that we call spiritual is really just science that they haven't figured out yet. But for those of you who do believe in that, the way that I view it is, okay, you can't be that powerful because you didn't even know how to clear up your acne. You didn't know how to grow your edges back. You didn't know how to get your stomach flat. You didn't know how to get rid of some basic stretch marks. You could have easily bought some cocoa butter. So you're telling me you have the spiritual power to direct the course of the entire universe. You know how to call on the universe. You know how to call on the fucking ancestors, but you don't know how to use cocoa butter on your ashy knees. No, you are not spiritual. You're not powerful. I'm not scared of you. You make all these talking points of, oh, you attract what you are, or, your reality is a reflection of like how you view things on the inside. Okay, so then you're crusty then. So then you are spiritually crusty. if you look crusty, then you must be spiritually crusty as well then, because like why didn't the ancestors tell you to put lotion on? Like that is just basic hygiene. Why is it that you're a master at manifesting, yet you couldn't even manifest hair past shoulder length? You couldn't even manifest your hair to retain moisture, yet you're trying to say you can manifest my SP. Oh, well, you just watch these videos. Oh, just listen to these subliminals. And then, like, your SP is going to come out of nowhere and you're going to live happily ever after. Have you ever noticed that? It's always a medium ugly Dustisha. They're making all these videos. Oh, well, just listen to my content. And then your celebrity SP is going to notice you. He's going to DM you on Instagram. Oh, I know you're being ghosted right now, but I'm going to manifest for you to not be ghosted. And when it comes to the whole spiritual thing, I just feel like this talking point that the ancestors are like watching us and your deceased relatives who have passed on, they're all watching you. I just feel like that it just sounds like bullshit. So you're telling me that out of all the things they could be doing, they would rather sit around and watch me while I'm watching Love Island. So that's what all the ancestors are doing. They're an audience. They're sitting there, they're watching me while I watch Love Island. They're watching me while I go boo-boo and go to the grocery store. So that was their whole purpose of living life. You know how they talk about karma and like, oh, it's going to happen in the afterlife or whatever. Okay, so you're telling me that all my fucking ancestors for billions of years, they went through all this karma and all this shit. They learned all these life lessons just so they could then sit around and watch me live my life. They're just sitting around watching me go to the grocery store. That sounds like bullshit. You guys are not spiritually powerful. You're not fooling me. Why are you over here making up talking points that the ancestors... Oh, and by the way, I saw that they were making fun of Nara Smith for her child having cancer. They said that the South African ancestors came and cursed her child because she stole her content from a South African creator. That's extremely fucked up to say, but it's also like, okay, why would the ancestors just be floating around in heaven, like just watching us and then just cursing people and like that sounds boring. That literally sounds boring. So you're telling me that my whole entire ancestors, every single person in the African American community who has passed on, they're sitting around watching me. And it's like, okay, if you got thousands of ancestors watching you and helping you, well, bitch, where's the fucking results? Where are the results? Show me the receipts. Where are the receipts? If your ancestors are so powerful, if you're so powerful, if you've got all these seduction tactics and you can do all these love spells and shit, then where are the results? Because why is it that your love spells only work on Dusties? Your love spell only worked on your baby daddy who's still left. You know, he was still Dusty. He still had another baby on you. So it's like, why is it that the love spells and all these potions and all these fucking herbs and essential oils, all these crystals, they can't manifest anything. You literally have dried out edges and hopes and dreams. That's all you have to show for all that spirituality. But I just feel like that's a part of Dustisha culture. That's a part of medium ugly culture. And by the way, I'm not saying that some of these talking points aren't accurate, because I do think that some of their talking points are good. You know, I wouldn't be who I am if it weren't for my background. So I'm not trying to like shit on it, but I just feel like if that woman, if she looks dusty, if she has no self-control, she's an undisciplined Dustisha, if she is a dusty bitch who eats processed food. So you got all these talking points about your pineal gland being open, the third eye being open, and then I see you standing over here in the Dunkin' Donuts line. You're over here eating Chick-fil-A and Dunkin' Donuts and Pizza Hut, talking about, oh, I want my third eye to be open. I want my pineal gland to be cleared out. I need to make sure that my body is alkaline. And, you know, I got to have all these crystals and balance my chakras. Bitch, Chick-fil-A ain't balancing your chakras. So a lot of medium ugly Dustishas, they're using all these things as a coping mechanism. You know, like her spirituality is a cope. Her eating habits are a cope. Making YouTube channels to obsess over the exoticals, that's a cope. And there's nothing wrong with coping mechanisms as long as the coping mechanisms are healthy. But yeah, I just feel like Dustishas, they're always obsessed with the pretty girl club. They try to rely on crystals and spirituality. They'll try to do curses, or they try to do like destiny swapping. Like, bitch, you ain't swapping shit. You're on TikTok begging for money. Have you ever seen those girls on TikTok? There's always like a medium ugly Dustisha with a head wrap on. She's always like begging for money on TikTok. Then she has all the piercings, you know, she's got her ears, her nose. She's got all these face piercings, all the crystals and beads that she's wearing. And it's like, you're telling me that out of all that spiritual power, you had to resort to begging for money on TikTok? You had to resort to creating fake GoFundMes and then getting banned off the platform, all because you were trying to collect money? You're over here doing readings and shit. They'll be doing these spiritual readings. They try to analyze all the astrology signs. That's another medium ugly obsession. They're obsessed with all the different astrology signs. Like, oh, well, what's their rising sign? Oh, well, okay, the moon. Oh, well, it's in Mercury retrograde right now. Okay, ma'am, your bills are still due on the 1st. You still need to pay bills. You still need to clear up that acne. You still need to lose the weight. You still need to grow the edges back. Okay, so when are we going to actually live in reality? When are we going to live in reality? When are the tips going to be practical? Because on this channel, we talk about reality. I'm not going to try to over interpret everything. I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. All I have is pattern recognition and reality. That's it. And the reason I'm coming for the dusty spiritual women is because I just feel like some of those women kind of remind me of like the dusty Hotep men. Have you ever noticed like when a guy's really unattractive and broke and like he has nothing to offer, suddenly he wants to act like he has all this spiritual knowledge? I feel like there are some women like that as well. So I'm not saying don't listen to people who are spiritual, but if I'm going to listen to people who are spiritual, I'm going to listen to more of like somebody who has pretty privilege, somebody where I can kind of see that they relate to me. That's who I'm more likely to watch. Like, I want to see the results of what you're doing. I really don't care what methods the exoticals use to level up. As long as your method works for you, that's all that matters. Who am I to tell you what you can and can't do? But it's like, if somebody tries to use their church background or whatever to try to bash me, and then their life is dusty as hell, they're a Dustisha. It's like, ma'am, you've been singing in the choir for 17 years. You haven't got not one record deal. You haven't made not one single. You haven't been to the studio not one time. And you're over here talking to me about where my life path is going. You're over here trying to do my palm readings and shit. No. You are a Dustisha. But I just want to say beware of the Dustishas who try to use God or crystals or religion. You know, they just try to use that as a way to validate themselves. They'll be like, oh, my value comes from Osiris or whatever their god is. I forgot the name of the really popular one. Is it Oshira or I don't know the name of it. But they'll say, oh, my value comes from my spirituality. My value comes from who I am on the inside, not my appearance. And it's like, okay, well, bitch, I have both. How about them apples? How about I have an abundance mindset? My value comes from being pretty on the inside, yes, but also being a bad bitch as well, and being gorgeous and stunning and being cute. And then I hear people saying, oh, well, I'm loved regardless of how I look. Okay, that's fine. And I am also loved for how I look as well. I'm loved regardless of how I look, and I'm also loved for the way I look too. Why can't I have both? Why is it that they always have a scarcity mindset? You have to pick one or the other. Either be spiritual or be pretty. Either be smart or be pretty. You can't have both. And it's like, no, I want it all. That's the real abundance mindset. So I'm sorry that you are a scarcity minded bitch. I am sorry that you are a spiritual vagabond. I'm sorry that you're shouting from the abyss. You're over here trying to scrape up breadcrumbs using all these crystals. Bitch, I am the crystal. Fuck are you talking about? I'm the crystal. I am the fucking diamond. I am a fucking rose quartz. I have the fucking rose gold skin tone. So what are you talking about? I am the diamond. I am emanating the fucking positive energy. I don't have to try to manifest all this magic. Bitch, I am the magic. How about them apples? I walk into the room and then I draw attention to myself. Okay, that's the magic. Problem solved. Next. But what do you ladies think? Have you ever come across a medium ugly woman that wants to use her spirituality against you? What do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.